Alright, what I'm going to do is show a few of these stones. These are in the class of Metate or piki stones or griddle stones. And so I was just going to explain a little bit about them and how they look. Piki stones were used to cook tortillas, or griddle stones were used to cook tortillas, or any kind of, flatbread or whatever. And they have a certain look. Like they're a little rounded. Some of them are rounded a little bit on both sides. Like this one is kind of on one side and a little bit flat on the other one. It probably indicates, or that they used them as a grinding stone also. And but here's a good one right here. A piki stone. You can see the burn marks around them on this one. You see how on this one it kind of rounds out on the back side. You can see here how it looks on the back side, rounded out, and then more flat on the top side. And then they would use it for both grinding. I grew up here, and on the Indian reservation, I know that we all called them metates. That's what everybody referred them to as growing up, as metates. But there's a different types of them, if indeed you could class these as metates. They use them for grinding also. Like here's one here. You see the burn marks around them. Some of these, of course, some of these were near campsites on the river banks. As a river or creek knocks the bank down, then these have been in the water, and so because piki stones and some of these cooking stones will look something like this one here, which has a film type of oily look, darker from the cook, being used as cooking, and so some of them have that. Here's one here that you can see the burn marks on this one around it, but also you can see in some of these that they were used as grinding stones, and maybe some of them more than others. But again, you can see the burn marks on some of them, but you can't see it on all of them. Here's one that was used for grinding. You can see that it's indented, and so it was grinding, but also heavily used for cooking. And who knows that they maybe used it on this side to cook, but you can see, this is a common thing to find, is the burn marks on them. Some of them aren't so burned as others. And anyway, again, here's another one that's it's flat on the top right here, and then it's rounded out on the bottom like this. You can see here's a classic one over here, and here's one that's flat, really fairly flat on both sides, but you can see that it has slight burn marks on this around it, but used a lot for a grinding stone, which they didn't show much wear and tear. You can see it was pecked and ground to begin with, and then they didn't do it anymore. They just kept it that way, which showed very little wear and tear. But here's a classic one over here that I really like, and see if I can pick it up here and put it on this stump, and you can see in this one the burn marks all the way around. You can see the burn mark on that, all the way around this one. What's really interesting, these piki stones or stone griddles, they were always a little bit, they're not quite flat. They kind of heighten in the middle and then go down a little bit on the outside. That kind of helps indicate that what it was used for, as far as a cooking slab. And then in the bottom looks like a turtle back, but it would set in the fire, and then or the fire is kind of built look like around it a little bit. I'm not sure exactly what they did, except that you can just tell, and it's discolored somewhat. This has been a lot of years since it's been used, so the rain and stuff exposes. Who knows how long it had been taken from the bank, fallen out of the bank, or as the bank was worn down on the river. That's where you start to see some of these. And so anyway, that's kind of a demonstration a little bit of what a piki stone is, a cooking stone. And like I say, I grew up knowing that they were metates. We always say, well, they're metates. They were laying everywhere. And there's just different types of them. They're a little bit flatter than others, but most of them, they're a little bit high in the middle and going, thinner on the outsides. And that usually indicates that they were used for piki, for cooking. And so anyway, that's just kind of a little bit of a demonstration of the piki stones, or stone griddles, or metates. They used them for grinding, just like all the Indians or the ancient inhabitants did. They used them for more than one thing. They used their tools in many different ways.